whether you're a top athlete or an occasional gym goer, you will have experienced some aches and pains following exercise. Now, this can just cause a little bit of discomfort, and other times it can cause those really frustrating long periods of rest between workouts. Over recent years, many of our WhatSpa readers have reported that they like using their hot tub as a way of recovering after exercise, but we wanted to speak to an expert. So in this video, I speak to Vitality Hub's director, Rosaria Barreto, to find out whether hopping in a hot tub is the best way to recover from exercise. Hi Rosaria, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sally, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So before we get started, I just want to give you a sort of overview of what this video series is about. So it's called Meet the Expert. And what we're trying to do at WhatSpa is we're trying to talk to different experts in various different fields to sort of basically see whether hot tubs and hydrotherapy, hot water therapy can be beneficial for these different illnesses and like general life issues and problems. So we know that there's a lot of medical evidence to suggest that hot tubs can be beneficial. For example, with this video, we're talking about exercise recovery. But we wanted to speak to experts and just dig a little deeper and basically get, their point of view on things. So before we go any further, can I get you just to introduce yourself and a bit about your background and what you do now?
Sure. So my name is Rosaria Barreto, and I am the director of a company called Vitality Hub. So at Vitality Hub, we use the power of exercise to help people live better quality of life, and ideally a pain-free life. I know that life isn't pain-free, so we try to optimize that and kind of facilitate that as much as possible, basically through the power of exercise. And we know that exercise is super important, and movement is great for managing your health and your well-being, but especially managing health conditions. My background, so I've been in the industry for over 7 years now. I have a BSc in exercise and fitness management, and I'm also recently received chartered status for the work that I've done within the fitness industry. And then I also have a few other complementary vocational qualifications which I've achieved, such as personal training. So I qualify as a personal trainer and a GP referral practitioner. So basically, if you go to the doctors and they're like, right, you need to do some more exercise, a doctor could refer them to come and see me because I have the experience and qualifications to help people with a variety of health conditions.
That's great. So you're a perfect person to talk to about exercise recovery.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah. So with your experience with patients like who want to recover faster from exercise and muscle aches and pains, do you generally work with, like, who do you kind of generally work with as a demographic? Is it like athletes, or is it like your novices that are just kind of wanting to up their game in terms of sport? Or yeah, tell me more about the patients.
Sure. So I actually originally started working with athletes. I worked with rugby clubs, football clubs and netball clubs, and also individual athletes. But as time went on, I really realized that there's so many people, just normal people out there, who want to exercise and don't have that high level support. So I'm currently working with everyday people, particularly people who have chronic health conditions, or people over the age of 60 who may over time have developed health conditions. It could be due to bad habits, it could be due to just health and their genetics. So they're the kind of people that I'm working with. And I think it's really important to recognize that everybody, no matter how elite you are in the industry, needs high level knowledge and support when it comes to movement, because it's something we should be doing every day and it's super important, but two, there are a variety of risks associated.
Yeah, so can you tell us a bit more about how exercise does impact muscles and joints? And I know that, I mean, I don't do a huge amount, but every time I go to the gym or whatever, I will always have aches and pains afterwards. Like, even if I just do like a small, sort of very kind of mild amount, why is that? What happens there?
So there's a few reasons why we experience aches and pains after exercise. There's good aches and pains and there's not so good aches and pains. I'll kind of quickly talk about the not so good aches and pains, so you can kind of tick that off and just be like, yeah, that's not me, so I must be having the good aches and pains. You can get injuries when you exercise. It's common, but it's not very common. And usually if you're doing the right thing and you're moving properly, then it's very likely you can avoid injury. We also have this instinctive nature where we will naturally know that something doesn't feel right, and you won't kind of proceed with that action to avoid any kind of further damage. So in that sense, that kind of feels like, oh, that doesn't feel right. And when you get that doesn't feel right, it's usually probably not right. So there's that kind of ache and pain. But the good kind of aches and pain, which we're talking about, is usually associated with something called DOMS, which is known as delay of onset muscle soreness. And that's great because that basically suggests that you've undergone overload and your muscles are basically trying to repair themselves throughout a cellular process. So the muscle fibers are fusing together to form new muscle proteins. And then this basically makes your muscles bigger. And if you can imagine that, you have like micro tears in your muscles, and a tear usually you associate with something painful. So if you're tearing something muscle, but these are so small that they're not necessarily, they're not bad. They shouldn't be that painful. They're not chronic pain. They'll last for about 2 to 3 days at the most. So that's what's happening when you get those aches and pains after the gym. You're undergoing those micro tears, your muscles are getting bigger, and that's a good thing. It's not something to be scared of, and it just shows that you've worked really hard in the gym. And if you're looking to build your muscle and strength, which everybody should be doing to support your whole body, then it's a good thing.
Well, that's good to know. So if people are coming to you because they've got the sort of bad side of things, the more chronic pain, and something's, they're struggling to recover from exercise or just general movement, what do you tend to do with your patients? What do you tend to sort of suggest or recommend for them?
So movement is medicine at the end of the day. And often people think, I need to stop, I need to rest. That's not usually the case. It's always good to move something, whether it's going for a walk to working on your mobility. And what I'd usually suggest in those scenarios is, one, we'd have to find out what the injury is. So I think the best thing to do here is to give a scenario. So for example, say you have recently been diagnosed with arthritis, that's it, in your right knee, okay? So that can be really, really painful. It can also reduce your movement in your leg, and it can also make walking and high impact activities quite painful. The best thing to do though is exercise. When it comes to arthritis, you have to strengthen those muscles around that knee. When you exercise, although with arthritis, with a type of arthritis, the cartilage in the knee is kind of rubbing away. Let's talk about it like rubbing away. Exercise stimulates the nutrients to optimize the cartilage in the knee. So although you think, oh, I shouldn't exercise, I shouldn't move that knee, the best thing to do is get those nutrients and that fluid to facilitate that cartilage doing its job, basically. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's really interesting. And obviously, WhatSpa, we're here to talk about hot tubs and hydrotherapy. So what we're really interested to know is, does like hot water and buoyancy of water and general hot water therapy, like, can that help in terms of inflammation, or like generally speaking when we're talking about exercise recovery?
So yes, generally it can. Now everything that I'm going to say is based off research that's suggested these outcomes. There's still so much research around water therapy and how it facilitates things like injury and exercise recovery and things like that. So this is just based off what research has suggested and what people are saying that they feel, whether that's a placebo effect or not. If people are feeling better because of water therapy, then I would say definitely go for it. And it can definitely depend on the person. So in terms of like hydrotherapy in general, it can be really great for exercise movement. It can help with balance, it can help with coordination, and it can help with flexibility. So you can actually exercise in water to help facilitate movement. Now, coming from an injury perspective, research has suggested that buoyancy can ease things like stress, and the warmth from the water can facilitate the muscles to relax and things like that. So if you imagine it like that, that's great, because you want your muscles to kind of relax, alleviate that stress that it's undergone through exercise, and reduce any muscle spasms that you may undergo. And this is just great for not just the immediate effects of pain relief, but also the long-term effects when it comes to movement and flexibility. And when you have reduced flexibility, that can result in injury eventually. So optimizing that flexibility is really, really important, especially as we age and we grow and the more exercise that we do. So when it comes to water therapy, I would suggest, like, if you think about it, how does that help us? How does water help me with my exercise recovery? There are three main things. It can reduce pain. So DOMS, what we were discussing earlier, there's lots of research to suggest that it can help facilitate with the pain associated with DOMS, and it can also decrease joint stress and inflammation in the joints.
That's really interesting. And there's a lot of kind of recent interest in cold water therapy. So I've noticed this sort of being a bit of a trend, particularly in like online and social communities. So have you seen any benefit to that cold water?
Yeah, I actually recently did my first cold water swim. It was 3 degrees and it was it was amazing. Like the first 5 minutes were hard because you're so cold, but afterwards the whole day I was just on such a high, and it really boosted my mood. So from a psychological point of view, there's a lot to suggest that cold water therapy is just fantastic for just overall body health and just feeling great, and that's my personal experience as well, and I'd 100% back that idea. When it comes to cold water therapy and warm water therapy, the way that you use that is different. So cold water therapy should be used kind of immediately after a workout, and you would be in that cold water for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum. And then warm water therapy is something you would undergo 24 hours after your workout. And the reason that is because you're already dehydrated from the workout that you've just done, and warm water can dehydrate you even further. So to avoid that dehydration, you'd want to kind of soothe your muscles and soothe your body 24 hours. So when that DOM starts to kick in, so that's kind of how you would use it. But I mean, in terms of benefits and impact, there's so many suggestions, from things like lung health to supporting you breathing with warm water and cold water, and also enhancing blood flow. And I think blood flow is one of the most important aspects of any water therapy, whether it's cold or warm, because your blood is, at the end of the day, bringing all the nutrients to the areas that need the nutrients. It's also moving kind of all the toxins and the waste products away from where they need to go, and things like that. So there's just so many benefits to it. It's mental, and all of the research that's being done on water therapy is just growing and growing and growing and supporting the benefits of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially how you say about leaving it 24 hours to, say, use a hot tub or use like a hot water therapy, because you do see a lot of people going from the gym to like, or doing a big swim, for example, and then going into the hot tub. Would you then sort of maybe recommend, like, if someone was doing rigorous exercise, that they would wait that 24-hour period potentially to get the most benefits?
I would definitely recommend it, especially if it's rigorous exercise, because if you're sweating a lot and if your water intake isn't great, which like most of us, I'm the first to admit I need to drink more water, you are naturally dehydrating yourself, and it only takes 2% of your body's water capacity for you to be classified as dehydrated. So 2% isn't a lot. So as soon as you think about it like that, you're like, oh gosh, like I really need to drink water to avoid coming under that 2%. So you can, I mean, it depends on the person, and their, like, you will have elite athletes who maybe have a different water therapy program, but I would say for everyday people, have warm water kind of therapy programs in place for 24 to 48 hours after a rigorous workout, but cold water, that can be done anytime. There's also research and kind of the idea that you could do warm water before a workout, and that's the idea behind that, is that you're warming up your body, so it's a more effective warm-up process, and that could potentially reduce the likelihood of undergoing an injury during a workout. So I think it's really important to just keep your eyes and ears open to what people are suggesting when it comes to warm water therapy. But for the last, let's say, I'd say 5 years, the research coming out of it is really positive for things like that.
That's fascinating. It's exciting to know that there's going to be potentially more research coming out, that we could like understand it a little bit more. So if you're, say, someone that does tend to exercise quite a lot, or actually just someone that you know that does bits and bobs here and there, would you recommend to your patients or your clients that they think about investing in a hot tub, particularly if they are struggling with the DOMS and like the muscle aches and pains afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my auntie has a hot tub, and she uses it every day, and it makes her feel great. And I think at the end of the day, like, we want to live happy, and we want to be happy for as long as possible. So, and hot tubs bring joy, whether that's from a physical or a physiological perspective, to a psychological perspective. And there's more research to suggest that water therapy is beneficial than it does nothing at all. And at the end of the day, it's everybody as an individual's opinion to kind of decide that. And everybody I've spoken to ever has always said, oh yeah, I really love a hot tub, like I really want to go in the hot tub, or I really find it beneficial because I can end my day and I'm de-winding or unwinding, should I say, and it's great. So from a exercise point of view, definitely go for it, especially if you're exercising 5 to 7 times a week, even if that's half an hour a day of exercise. If you're going on long walks, oh great, you could be an avid dog walker. Maybe you're not going into the gym every day, but you're walking a lot, and that pressure on those joints needs some TLC, and a hot tub is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. And would you give any other sort of therapeutic recommendations that we haven't already covered? We've talked about a lot of stuff, so.
Sure. So there's also other aspects of why like hot tubs can be really beneficial from a movement perspective. One is for people who are struggling with balance or coordination, getting in and out of a hot tub is really great for that. It's really great for practicing that and building up your confidence from moving your body in and out of objects, but also in the water, you can practice really gentle exercises that focus on mobility. So as like a complementary therapy with a hot tub involved, you can do things like focus on in the water, standing on one leg, or sitting with your feet raised off the ground, and things like that, to really facilitate movement and balance and confidence. So that's just another thing that you can also use a hot tub for, and to help optimize your physical ability.
Oh, that's really interesting. Thank you so much. And I think, you know, this is going to be so helpful for so many different people, because a lot of people just don't know how beneficial hot water therapy and cold water therapy can be for just like achieving their goals in terms of fitness, and, you know, encouraging that like muscle recovery, generally just making them feel better on a day-to-day basis. So I really appreciate everything you sort of talked us through. And I know that our audience are really going to want to know like how they can contact you, and like, do you have a website? Do you have, what are your social handles? Tell us everything so they can find you.
So if you would like to kind of check us out, do a little stalk, go to www.vitalityhub.co.uk. So make sure it says Vitality Hub, otherwise you'll find Vitality Health Insurance. So make sure that you're adding the hub in. And then on socials, if you either look up Vitality Hub or my name, Rosaria Barreto, then you can also find me. You could Google me. I'm pretty sure I come up, and I'm one of the only Rosaria Barretos in the UK. So lucky in a sense, if you want to find me, because it's quite easy. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram and YouTube. So there's lots of advice on YouTube for health and movement, especially for people with health conditions. So just look up Rosaria Barreto on YouTube, and you'll find me. Now, if you want to contact directly, then please make sure to go to info@vitalityhub.co.uk, and then someone will pick that up from there and can advise you moving forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been so interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.